Streaming? Yeah, we're streaming. Okay.
I don't know why.
People watch.
Sad people.
All right, sad Piro.
Who knew Sad
So
Piro?
sad. So sad that
Here's
people like your thing.
No, that's not what it is. See, Sad Piro, right, he thought he sucked, right? And he thought he wasn't any good at art when he was better than most people, at least. I mean, he's not great, but it's like...
Yeah, I know you're better at podcasting than most people.
But...
Most podcasts are real goddamn bad.
Right?
Like, you disagree with me that most podcasts are real bad?
The difference is I don't think I suck. I think it's just a waste of time for someone to listen to what I have to say, and you should go do something better with your time.
Well, like support us on Patreon, which actually we're rising again.
Right. You should give money to someone who doesn't have money.
That money's going into a con.
You should spend your time listening.
A convention con, not a con.
Both. You mean both? You should,
Actually, that money's all paying for the designer, so.
You should, spend your time paying attention to what someone intelligent has to say.
Like me.
Like not you.
All right, let's start this. Marantz is good. Compressor's good. I changed the volume stuff.
Someone worth listening to who's actually, meaningful.
In fact, actually, enough people listen to the YouTube stream that we have this weird thing going on. So because my Brexit video, like Russian bot, like it got a bunch of views recently, like a lot of them. So a lot of people subscribed to my YouTube channel and started watching like our talks and things, but then this live thing pops up in their stream, and the chat is a lot of randos being like, what the fuck is this? Who are these people? Why am I seeing this? And they don't understand what's happening.
Because most people have a YouTube channel.
Yep.
They put one kind of thing in it.
Yep. Or, so there's one set of people who see our lectures and don't know we do a podcast. There's this other kind of people who subscribe to YouTube channels commonly, but none of the channels they subscribe to live stream. So when we live stream, it pops up in their feed and they don't understand because that's never happened before. Because they don't watch live streams. These aren't like Twitch people. These are like
they're just
non-Twitch people.
Right.
It's weird.
Oh, Dockless bikes, you're already facing problems. You don't say.
No.
I called that one.
Did someone take all the bikes and park them in front of one guy's house? Because that's what I would do.
I saw them along that path up to Brewster. They were in the Bronx.
Yeah. Well, you saw someone stole like all of them in Rochester, like every single one.
Good job.
Because there was a Bluetooth there. You could basically dock the bike, but not actually put it in the dock. If the bike was
I thought
close,
it's dockless.
No, so there's the docked ones all got stolen in Rochester.
What? I didn't know even they had.
They took the bike up next to the docks, and then they said, "I'm done." And the dock detected the bike was right there and said, "Yep."
You don't have to slam and jam it in.
You don't have to slam and jam it, apparently.
Well, then who the fuck designed that?
Someone who caused every single bike in the bike share in Rochester to get stolen. Granted, I don't know what you do with one of those bikes. How are you going to fence a 55-pound branded bike?
I don't think you fence it. I think you just ride it.
But then you're just...
No one's going to think it's stolen. No one's going to chase you down.
Well, they will if you stole all of them.
Maybe you're just going to recycle them for scrap.
Those are worth maybe $1 of scrap, tops.
I don't know. Maybe someone knows.
Yeah, plus who are you going to take it to? What scrapyard are you going to roll up with 500 obviously stolen bikes? 500
stolen bikes is worth more than $0.
Yeah, it's probably... It would be easier to just steal a regular-ass bike. I mean, it's not like people lock them up that tight.
But nobody will get mad about you stealing one of these because it's not owned by anyone.
It doesn't matter if people get mad. When was the last time a cop did something about a stolen bike?
No, but owners chase you down.
No, they don't.
Yeah, if you steal a real bike, there's a lot of stories online.
Oh, yeah, they track you down and the cops don't care and you get off scot-free.
No, sometimes people take things into their own hands.
Yeah, that's
if you
pretty
steal
rare,
a
though.
city bike, no one gives a shit. No one's following you. No one's trying to find you on Craigslist. No, right? It's like you're just stealing from the public. No one cares, right? If I steal a lawn gnome from your yard, you might try to...
I'm going to track you down.
You might try to find out who stole your lawn gnome. But if I steal a lawn gnome that was in like the public park, someone might notice, hey, where'd the lawn gnome go?
If you don't return my lawn gnome, I will find you. I will hunt you down and I will kill you.
But right? Unless the cop's scared, no one finds out who ruined public things. That's how come all the rich people get away with fleecing the public.
Yeah. All right, I think we can start the show. We got people watching now.
Go away, people. Go fleece the public.
For Black Dynamite.
In our community.
All right, it is 6th. It's Monday, August 6th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, keyboard shortcuts. Do I have a meta? Do I have any meta? Anything that happened in my life?
Warm today.
Interesting.
Warm yesterday.
Yeah, we can talk about how it's warm, I guess.
Even warmer today.
All right, I got nobody bit. So I'm not one to complain about the heat. I'm the opposite of that. I'm pretty much always complaining that it's not hot enough.
Yeah, I don't complain about.
I like it to be really hot.
See, I don't ever complain about heat or humidity because even if it does get a point where it's even slightly uncomfortable,
but
I just
anyway.
I just imagine it being cold again, and I'm like, well, I'll take this.
Yeah,
no question. Because like even 100-something degrees is more comfortable than like 40. Right?
Yeah. In fact, 40 is the worst because if it's like 0, I can go skiing.
Fuck skiing.
If it's 100, I can enjoy the heat. But if it's like 40, I both can't ski and can't go outside.
But the thing is,
can do nothing.
Even though I like heat, the thing that I actually don't like is the bright sun with its evil burn.
No, the bright sun is that is literally the primary aspect of why I like the heat so
I want
much.
it to be dark and 100 degrees.
I do enjoy that. One of my favorite things on Earth is to go for a long run or a long bike ride in the middle of the night when it's really hot at night.
The point is today it was one of those situations where it was nice and super toasty everywhere to the point at which most people were uncomfortable. I was very comfortable, but in the sun, you could feel it like burning you. You probably could have cooked food outside today.
Yeah, but I like that. I like that. I like to run in shorts, no shirt.
I like that it was. I liked that it was warm, but then I had to go in the shade, and I was disappointed in the shade because that it was colder. But I was happy in the shade that it was less bright, and it was. I had to basically couldn't. It was either too bright and warm enough, or slightly cold but not bright.
But so I've been trying to run half marathons like every weekend. I'm trying to get my times down.
Is that healthy?
Yeah. So a full marathon, like there's some evidence that if you do that a lot, it'll cause joint damage.
All right. Well, how far can I bike before it counts as a marathon?
Biking so far, you'll be worried more about things like incontinence and impotence.
Well, I mean, that's just gonna happen when I'm old anyway. So.
Yeah, biking can cause specific issues there, especially if you use a fancy narrow-ass bike seat. But I digress. So I started my run on Saturday like I usually do, but it was hot. And more importantly, I thought the rain ended, like the air quality would be good. The air quality was actually really bad.
Air quality's real bad.
Yeah. And I hit about the 10-mile mark, and my lungs were just like, hey, Rim, yeah, nah, you should stop. You're going to be in bed. You're going to not have a good time if you don't stop. And I did stop, and then I was just exhausted and tired for the entire rest of the day. Probably because of the ozone in the air.
Yeah. Well, you were all drinking poison. I just went to bike around, and I just went to the park because whatever. There was nowhere to go.
Brunch. We actually, between all of us, drank relatively little poison.
More than 0 poisons.
We all had like 1 beer. A couple of people had 2.
1 whole giant mug of poison.
Yeah, and giant gypsy toast covered in fruit and jam, and it was amazing.
Anyway,
and also meats. Kamasas.
I biked around the park, and
Brats.
I'm just whooshing around in a circle, and like my legs are like, whatever, you're just going in a stupid tiny circle.
I will not use Celsius. Fahrenheit is superior, and I'll fight you. That's the hell I'll die.
Anyway, but like every time I went up the hill, my lung was like, ow. And my leg was like, lung, what the fuck's wrong with you?
To quote
this isn't even barely a hill. I got, you know how many gears we can go lower than this?
To quote a legendary comedian, don't breathe no more.
Well, yeah, that was when he was talking about having a heart attack.
Yeah, but there's the point when your body, instead of, because pain is normally a suggestion, like, hey, you should probably knock this out, like, stop this, like, this is not good. But then there's when the body, instead of saying, hey, stop it, the body gives a directive.
There was one guy who was biking, and I passed him on the way into the park,
yeah, and
he was playing some really awful, like, 2000s pop song.
Yeah.
And then I didn't see him again, but then I kept going around, and I caught up to him, and he was playing Staying Alive. And then, so I tried to, like, bike next to him so I could groove to the Staying Alive.
Yeah.
And then we got to the hill, and then he was way slower, and I tried to slow down to hear more music, but I couldn't slow down that much.
So a real sad thing happens.
That would be weird, like, if I hit the brakes just so this guy, like, catch up to me.
So... this dude was biking. He was like our age and like seemed fit, and he was on a kind of normal bike. But I beat him over the RFK bridge on foot, and he was biking the entire time.
All right.
Both up and downhill. On the uphill, he was clearly in the wrong gear and didn't know how bikes work. So he was like jumping into like.
There's so many wrong
down.
gear people, and I don't know how to help them. And if they're
It's not even like he only had one gear. He had gears.
Oh yeah, no, I don't stop. I don't even think about helping someone if they don't have a gear. But the other thing is that if I see someone in a bad gear and I want to help them, like even if I try to help them, like they don't listen, and if I'm afraid, especially if they're not a man, that it'll be mansplaining. So I don't explain. It's like, how do you balance that not wanting to mansplain, but also genuinely wanting to help people? Because if they did stop and listen to me, and I gave them like a 2-minute lesson on how to use the fucking gears, they could go whoosh, and their life would be so much better.
Yeah, I gave up on helping people. I only talk to people if I'm making fun of them for the fact that they only have one gear. Usually my advice will be, you could go a lot faster uphill if you had more than one gear, and they get really mad. And then I bike away, and they can't catch me because they only have one gear. But usually when I'm running, fixie dudes will go real slow. Like, I'll pass them because they can't bike faster than I can run uphill. But then they'll pass me on the downhill because they're on a bike. This dude not only couldn't get up the hill because he was in the wrong gear, but then he couldn't go down the hill at speed. I think he was braking the whole time. So I basically ran down the RFK faster than him.
Was he just not afraid to pass you because it's too narrow?
Oh, no. I left him in the dust.
Okay.
I actually stopped at the bottom of the bridge, partly because the ozone, that's when I hit the 10-mile mark, and I was running out of steam. So I waited at the bottom of the bridge, like catching my breath and drinking water, and he came down like 4 minutes after me.
Well, also, if he has to go down the stairs. Maybe he was clumsy with the bike on the stairs.
He might have been, but he even on the downhill before we hit the stairs, never caught up with me. It was the first time in my life I passed a biker on the uphill on foot, and then they did not catch up to me on the downhill.
You know someone's slow when I'm coasting, not even pedaling, uphill, and I'm passing them.
Yeah,
that happens.
I ran into that too.
That happens more than you would think.
Yeah,
like, how could somebody's pedaling a bike next to me, but they don't know how to bike and they don't know how to use gears, even if they're fit. And I stop pedaling, and my velocity remains greater than theirs, and I just keep going past them without pedaling.
The moral of this is that the most assured way to enrage a New Yorker, or at least to get our interest in a negative fashion,
to get in the way,
is to be slow in any capacity.
If
you are moving slowly on foot or on a bicycle, that is a problem.
Get out of the way. Just get out of the way.
So there's actually a lot of tech news, so I don't think we'll go into these too deep, but I'll start with Scott's, this Vanity Fair article.
Right, so basically, I think Steve Jobs' daughter, Lisa, the one that the Lisa computer was or was not named after, I think she wrote a memoir, but there's the excerpt of it, which is mostly the parts about Steve Jobs that's on Vanity Fair, and that's the only part you're going to be interested in for tech news, right?
Yeah.
But you can see this is the most learn what Steve Jobs is really like kind of thing. And this really matches my basically existing
assumptions based on his public persona.
Yeah, and also my assumptions about all Silicon Valley douchebags and all rich people, which is fuck them.
Yeah, I think there should be a maximum wage.
I think there should be a lot of things.
Yeah,
but yeah, if you're interested, at all, and Steve Jobs, although I do not like him, was a very important person in the history of technology and was the, primary reason that Apple Computer is the first $1 trillion corporation to ever exist.
Yep.
And is now basically evil cyberpunk co. #1.
They're like #3, I think.
The biggest, though. Anyway.
Well, no, they have the largest market cap. That does not mean they're actually the biggest.
Right, well, important person regardless. You should learn about him if you care about technologies, and this is about as close as you're going to learn about his personality. Someone who was shared half his DNA or whatever.
Oh yeah, right in the summary here, it describes him as mercurial, and that sounds about right. So I'm sure when I read this, mercurial things will happen. So, in some other news, if you were paying attention today, you might have seen a lot of articles that all said, leak says Microsoft's going to charge a monthly fee for Windows.
I didn't see that.
This was all over the internet like a little while ago.
Okay. I guess I actually did some work today.
Oh, yeah. We both have newish jobs, and we're both actually doing work, which is interesting.
I read plenty of internet today.
Yeah, but, so one, that is not true. And the
I mean, if it was, I definitely would find a way. Every time, there have been throughout Microsoft Windows history, there have always been like, oh no, Windows is going to be even eviler now. Oh no, and then the oh no never happened, really.
Yeah. Or some of the things that a lot of people say, oh, they'll do this evil thing, were things they should do, like forcing people to upgrade. Like, I think they should force people to take their patches. Fuck you.
I think so, too.
So the actual story here, and it really is funny how many scaremongering articles really had no idea what the deal was, is pretty straightforward.
Well, you got to get clicks. You're not going to get clicks with the real story.
So Microsoft is probably going to offer a managed service for Windows PCs aimed at companies. This is not aimed at like you and your house or your tiny company. This is aimed at a company that's big enough.
I mean, Windows is already dying in people's houses because everyone just uses their phone and tablet.
Yep.
So even if they did this, people would just like stop using the desktops altogether. They would just all go tablet.
Yeah.
So why would they kill off the remaining whatever they got left?
Yeah, because the only reason to run Windows at home...
There's that new Surface tablet that's smaller that's supposed to be way good, like Surface Go or something like that.
If you don't need the like high performance of a regular Surface device, this thing's great.
It actually seems pretty good from what people are saying. I haven't seen one, though.
I would consider getting it when my laptop dies, because it could do everything my current laptop does better. It's actually way faster than my current laptop.
I'm sure it is.
But I'll probably get the one with like the video card, like the real Surface. But anyway, so the only people who use Windows at home are gamers, because it's really the only PC gaming platform.
Yep.
Like, there's no other way to play PC games. Or people who are making content and don't want to run a Mac. And frankly, if you're making content, you probably want to use Windows because you can get real hardware. Like,
well, a lot of people these days are using like Hackintosh, which is a PC, but you install OS X on it. Or they're getting like some external GPU nonsense, or they're who knows.
Yeah, but anyway, the real story is managed services.
Or dealing with getting the most expensive Mac and dealing with it.
So a company could basically pay Microsoft a monthly fee, like per desk, and have a Windows desktop that Microsoft will manage for you, meaning group policies and patches and updates, and if an update breaks something, they'll take care of it. I think a lot of companies will jump on this because a lot of companies...
It has to be cheaper than your IT guy or better enough that it's worth paying the extra, or, you know, the math just has to work out and you'll switch to it.
Because a giant company...
And even if you have an IT guy, you might even keep the IT guy on and pay for this because now your IT guy can spend all their time doing something else.
Yep, because a lot of companies will not pay for an IT person.
Like dealing with the shitty phones or the shitty network.
To administer like their internal Active Directory or the internal desktop PCs. Like a lot of companies struggle with this. And this is, I think, a really good thing for Microsoft to offer because a lot of companies offer this service on top of Microsoft. They'll basically come into a company and provide managed IT services, and I suspect a lot of those companies do a bad job, so Microsoft can both take the VIG and cut these middlemen out of the equation and provide the service directly.
Well, I mean, this is a thing that's always, right, anytime your business is based on someone else's platform, right, if you sell accessories for a Toyota car... Right, you always
Toyota might start selling.
Toyota A might include that accessory as a feature in the cars to begin with, right? B, they might offer it as an add-on, and now no one's gonna buy your third-party one. Or they just might buy your whole company. That's what you want, and this happens all the time. The one I remember the most was some fancy Visual Studio plugin back in the day, and it was like Microsoft was gonna threaten to add the feature to Visual Studio, and then basically they worked it out, and Microsoft bought the plugin company instead, and then added the feature to Visual Studio, right? So it's just, you know, it's not necessarily a software feature, but it's still a service for a particular product, and it's like, well, we'll just offer the service with the product.
So that's all this news is. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you somehow heard that Microsoft is going to charge a monthly fee for Windows, click even one article. Get one sentence into any article, and you could have figured out what the real story is. In some other news, Google, according to a bunch of leaks...
So we got Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Google. All right, we're covering all the bases here.
They basically were going to launch a censored search in China.
And well, way back in the day, they were in China, and China was like, you must censor the Google search. And Google said, no, we're just going to stop putting Google in China. And that's why Chinese people use Baidu or QQ or whatever the other alternative things are.
So
I think it's Baidu, right?
The confidential Project Dragonfly was leaked to a group of Google employees wider than the tiny group of Google employees who were working on the
So there was a
project.
tiny group of people at Google who had changed the previous Google policy and were now willing to do this.
We're willing to make a censored search
But
engine.
other Google employees, who were the ones not willing to do this, found out that other Google people were evil and were doing this.
It seems that a lot of Google employees freaked out, demanded the project to be canceled. A bunch of people threatened to quit. There's a lot of interesting stories about what's going. This is like developing news. This is still ongoing. So this article will sort of cover the baseline of where we are. But
I mean, even if they managed to complete it with the team of people who had no ethical qualms, and then they deployed it, then everyone would find out and quit, and you'd have the same problem later. Wouldn't it just be better, right? It's like, come on.
Yep. So there's all sorts of drama about this, and this is a good thing. I'm actually very happy that people inside Google are both willing to leak this to the public and actually quit their jobs or threaten to quit their jobs over it.
Well, you got a company that's big enough, there's always going to be people, right? It's like at a small company like mine, I don't think there's any people at my company who have any disagreements on things, right?
Well, like you don't hire someone who disagrees with your core business model.
Right, but when your company is massive, you're going to have all kinds of people, right? The what's it called guy worked at Google, right? The whole, what was his name?
That could be any number of people.
No, the whole the guy who wrote the sexist thing. And then all the Google people fought each other.
Yep.
It's like they were all Google employees. It's just so big, right? It's like even if I was the CEO of Google, I couldn't personally screen everyone to make sure they weren't a piece of shit.
This is the second time
that would be like my only job, and I wouldn't even get to it.
That this happened to Google, because a couple months ago, a bunch of other Google employees working on Project Maven. And Maven was the project to make AI for drone kill bots.
Yep.
And Google employees were like, yeah, we'll quit. This is fucked. We do not want to do this. And as best I can tell, Google actually is letting the contract with the Pentagon, I think it was the Pentagon, with the U.S. government run out. And they're not going to continue the project. Tons of employees threatened to quit, petitioned. So these two stories.
The thing is the only thing, right, is that like threatening to quit is good, especially if you're a valuable employee they really need.
There's a subtle point there. I think a big part of why,
or if you have enough employees that you can threaten to quit. And
a big part of why I think Google employees in particular, and this is just opinion.
They got so much money that they don't give a fuck.
In both these instances, are willing. It's not just that they have a ton of money. It's that people with these sets of skills are in desperate demand right now across industries. But these people can all snap their fingers and work for any other company in the sector.
I think a better thing to do than quit, though, right?
Sabotage?
Why did you figure me out? You didn't let me get. Is that some people say, "Oh, you should stay," and that way you're still in the system and you can still work to make things better. Well, and some people say, "Quit. You shouldn't be working for an evil system." I say, "Stay in the system and sabotage."
Well, wasn't that the plot of Rogue One?
Yes.
I mean, I would say there is a time and a place for that. Neither one of these stories are at the line where I would directly advocate sabotage.
No, if they had actually launched the Chinese Google, and then that's the first I heard of it.
So, the real awesome thing, if Google were the company it was 15 years ago, the awesome thing to do would be to have this secret project, launch their censored search engine in China, make it the biggest search engine in China, and then 3 years down the line, open the goddamn floodgates and spill the beans on everything inside China.
China just turned the site off.
Yeah, but they could get the data out pretty quick. Set it up such that they could blow their load and leak information all over China.
I think what's more likely what they would do is if they had managed to secretly develop this, they would put it out in China and brand it and put it on infrastructure such that nobody would know Google had made it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wouldn't be branded as Google. It would be called something else. It would just be a suspiciously good Chinese search engine.
But if you work in technology, and a lot of the people listen to Monday Geek Nights do, my only advice to you is, if your company's doing something that is unethical, and it's beyond a certain line of unethical, you have a responsibility to not do the thing.
Right. Even though, whistleblowing is technically supposed to have protections, but in reality...
It doesn't. You're going to take a huge personal risk.
In reality, if you blow the whistle on things that are big enough, you just get fucked. but I'll fucking do it anyway.
Yep. Like, if your company's doing stuff with ice, you should make a big deal about that and threaten to quit.
Mm-hmm.
In some other... let's see, that's been 20 minutes. Do we really need to do more news?
Not really.
I think we can leave off these 2 newses for next time. All right, we got a bunch of people watching. They've all just said hi, except Dazzle, who's mad that we're talking in Fahrenheit.
Go away.
Yeah, all I'm going to say, 1 degree Fahrenheit is perceptible to a human. How come with Celsius you're always being like, yeah, it's 23.5 out right now. Don't tell me you need 3 digits to express your temperature.
Yep. It's like there's a big difference between 19 Celsius and 20 Celsius.
Yeah,
right?
if my thermostat had 19
But
and
what
20,
can you tell the difference between 70 and 70.5 Fahrenheit? No, it's more granular. So it's like, yeah, you could Celsius means more in a scientific way, in that the difference, it's 1 degree Celsius is the amount to heat 1 cubic centimeter, 1 milliliter of water by 1 degree
but
Celsius.
Fahrenheit, 0 is too cold and 100's too hot.
Right. That doesn't mean anything.
50's
If you could take Celsius and perhaps divide it by 100th and call it like a millicelsi, and then
you still have the too many.
It would then be granular enough to express human.
It's very telling. Like
feelings.
People say things like, "Oh yeah, it's like 76 degrees out right now."
And it is nice with Celsius that 0 is freezing.
Yeah, freezing of
Fahrenheit,
one kind of water. Fahrenheit 0 is also freezing of a different kind of water.
I think that what they should really just do is take Fahrenheit and just fucking add 32 or whatever. Or subtract 32, so that way freezing is 0.
One argument I would make is that hitting 32 isn't really that much of a problem, but hitting 0 is the point where it's dangerous.
But water freezes at 30.
Yeah, salt water freezes at 0, and saltwater freezing is like when the danger of frostbite gets real bad, and also salting the roads doesn't do anything anymore. All right, anyway. But anyway, things of the day. So a long time ago, I did a thing of the day about this marble machine. You've seen it around the internet.
Rim's paying big attention to this.
Yeah, because I've been following this guy. So the marble machine was this amazing YouTube video, and it was made by this dude who has this band called Wintergarten, and they do like cool concerts and everything.
Oh, Wintergarten, not Wintergarden.
Not Wintergarten, Wintergarten.
Oh, Wintergarten is a theater.
Yeah, so Wintergarten. And basically the dude has been continuously making YouTube videos every week for a long time.
He probably made a bunch of money from them.
Yeah. He's made basically the problem with that original marble machine, as amazing as that video was, is that it was basically a glass cannon. That thing could run once, and it barely ran. Like, it is so cobbled together. It couldn't go on tour. It's in a museum now, and it's retired. Like, it can't be used again. Really.
I'm sure you could reset it with enough effort, but it wouldn't be easy.
Yeah, and it's hard to make it go, and you can't travel with it.
Of course.
So his goal was to learn all the skills necessary to make a new marble machine that is robust and can go on a world tour. And he's been like, I've watched videos in this channel where he like learned how to weld from scratch and then welded the part. He learned CNC. He learned 3D printing. He learned modeling. And if you watch all these videos, they're so meditative and so fascinating. And now is a good time to start watching them because the machine's starting to come together.
All right.
And unlike a lot of the series where you might watch like someone building a machine, usually those series are a retrospective on something that already succeeded. We don't actually know if this will work.
It's gonna work eventually. He's not gonna stop. He's not gonna stop until it works.
As he's making them.
Someone who's this determined is gonna keep going until it works.
Yep.
It will happen eventually. It's just a matter of when. Will it be this year, next year,
also,
the year
some
after?
of the videos, he fails. Like, he fucks up.
Yeah, that's what happens when you work on something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fuck the fuck up.
And he learns stuff along the way. And if you watch them, like, you could learn these same skills because he goes from nothing and he asks people and looks on the internet and like, oh, this is how you weld. And now I'll try to weld. And that was a really
Or
bad
you
weld.
could just go on YouTube and learn to weld.
Yeah.
Or go to welding school, which is probably a better idea.
So I'm linking to this because this is the video where he makes the flywheel.
Dun,
and
dun, dun.
It's really, I like flywheels. Like,
All right.
I specifically like flywheels. At the very end, he holds the clock up and he gets the flywheel spinning and he sees how long it'll spin.
A long time.
when this has a world tour, it's definitely coming to New York, and I'm actually keeping my eye out.
You want to go see it, really?
I am definitely.
You're this guy's #1 fan. You're going to get his autograph. Kiss his
got
foot.
over 1 million subscribers. He's pretty big now.
Kiss his foot.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of this guy, and I will go see this in concert.
Anyway.
So what's your thing of the day?
So last week, I had a thing of the day where it was like some jousting on the front of boats.
Everyone I have showed that video to, 3 seconds in goes, oh, yeah, that's real good.
Here is, in Germany, a place where I guess they do play some ice hockey in Germany, but not much.
Yeah.
So they have ice rinks in Germany. But in Germany, they play soccer. That's their sport.
Yeah.
They didn't do too well this World Cup, but they usually do much better. They're pretty good at soccer. I think I read somewhere that like if you add up all the soccer leagues in Germany, I think is it called like the Bundesliga or something, that there's like thousands of soccer teams all in these leagues. Like they have more soccer teams like than God anyway. And that's just in Germany only. But here is people playing, I mean, they don't play ice hockey, but here they are with an ice rink.
Well, a lot of hockey fans will describe soccer as slow grass hockey.
Yeah, but here they are playing foot soccer on ice. Yeah.
And
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome because it is, based on watching this video, as dangerous as you could imagine.
Ice hockey is as dangerous as you can imagine.
This looks more dangerous than
the
ice
only
hockey.
reason ice hockey looks less dangerous is because the people doing it are professionals who practiced not stabbing each other with skates.
Yeah. Also, to
imagine
be fair,
if a bunch of chumps go out and tried to play ice hockey who didn't know what the fuck they were doing. There would be blood on the ice very quickly.
This basically has all the ridiculousness of ice hockey, but what it does not have is the grace of ice hockey, because ice hockey is a clever balance of brutality and grace. This is just the brutality and people falling over and over and over again.
Mostly the second part.
Yeah, but also this short clip's got linked to. I mean, your thing today is basically an animated GIF.
Yeah. But I couldn't find I'm sure if you knew what to search for, you could find a full video, but this is all
Spoilers, they score a goal and someone falls over.
This is all I could find.
Yeah. In the meta moment,
with my minimal effort,
the new GeekNights book club is going to be the Odyssey.
That's another Odyssey. We'll do all Odysseys.
The Space Odyssey.
We went from the Greek Odyssey to the Space Odyssey.
Lots of Odysseys.
So just yesterday, I went to the theater to see 2001: A Space Odyssey in 70mm.
How was that?
I hadn't seen it, but first of all, we went to get our breakfast, then we walked over to the theater, and it was fucking crowded. I couldn't even believe.
Oh, wow.
It's been playing all week, and like it wasn't 100% full, but it was very full. Yeah, nothing looks as good as, no current HD screen of digitalness is as good as 70mm film, because the film is enormous. And also, the acoustics of that particular theater are insane. So it was very loud. Like when the monolith goes when they're on the moon, like everyone puts their finger in their ears because it just like the astronauts because it was so fucking loud.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I saw it again, and knowing what I've been learning more and more about it recently because I read like the first forward and the first two chapters
I
of the
should
book.
buy a Kindle copy of the book.
Yeah, I think a paper version's actually like a few cents cheaper.
Yeah,
but anyway, so I didn't realize, right, that this movie was actually made in the mid-'60s, and it came out in '68 before anyone landed on the moon, right? It came out before Star Wars, and I'm sure, it's not, I can't really spoil, I've seen the movie, it's not spoilers, right? There's no way you can spoil something. The statute of limitations is far gone on this one, right?
Odysseus makes it home and murders all the suitors.
Right, yeah. But yeah, the ending of the movie is obviously very Evangelion-esque, but I cannot think of anything older that has that kind of psychedelic, messed up, non-concrete ending.
Maybe like some Stanislaw Lem short story might, or something like that.
Short stories maybe, but like not movies or TV or anything like that.
Not like a full, like a movie.
So it makes me wonder, we'll talk about this more in the book club episode, is this the original Terrible Secret of Space?
All right.
Maybe. If you know any older, previous Terrible Secrets of Space, let me know.
Otherwise, we are going to be live. The PAX West schedule just went up.
And the PAX website went down.
Like, immediately. So we will be there all weekend, like the whole con, just doing stuff, playing games. We will not be at PAX Dev this year. We're skipping it. I want to go.
Even though Ben Brode is doing the keynote, it's going to be a good one.
I really want to go to PAX Dev.
I read a preview of his keynote where he basically interviewed with him asking about the stuff he's going to talk about, and it seemed way good.
Yep. But sometimes they put the keynotes from Dev online, so they're not privileged.
Oh, I've never seen one.
It depends.
Online.
Some panels at PAX Dev, the people who run them, agree that it can be made public.
Well, I don't think he's going to reveal any secrets or anything.
Probably not.
It doesn't seem like he's going to talk about that kind of stuff. So
We'll see. If it is public, I will definitely make it a thing of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Or I'll just link to it as a news or whatever. We'll do a whole show on it if it's real good.
I don't think it's be that good.
But on Monday at 10 a.m., we will be at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Our panel, the 40 tabletop games you
Monday
must play,
Labor Day, United States Labor Day,
will be live streamed on either PAX 2 or PAX 3, one of the two non-main theater PAX Twitch streams. We will probably not take questions from the audience, meaning we'll definitely not take questions from the Twitch stream.
Why would we take questions from the Twitch stream? Good God.
I used to take questions from the Twitch stream on behalf of, like, for the panels back when I did that.
If you want to ask questions while Twitch streaming, wait for me to just Twitch stream something on my own.
Well, you know what I did for that is I let all the stupid questions fly by, and I only took the one that was good.
I mean, even so.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, the next con we get after that is like PAX Unplugged, and then MAGFest, which we will be at. Pretty sure MAGFest is going to announce its dates imminently. So if you want to go to
MAGFest has traditionally been around New Year's.
Yep.
It's not hard to guess the dates of MAGFest. If you were to bet on them, Vegas would not take your money because the odds of you being right are so good.
it's gonna be within two.
It's gonna be a Thursday through a Sunday. It's gonna be early in January.
It's gonna be between.
You only got like 3 weekends to choose from.
It'll be at earliest the very end of December, and at latest probably like the first weekend in February. Like that is the latest.
It would never go to February. It's
So-
going to be January, and even late January is unlikely.
So they're probably going to announce them real soon. So if you want to go to MAGFest, jump on that because they do sell out of badges now. And
I think they sell out of hotel rooms now.
Well, they definitely sell out of hotel rooms.
You're going to have to stay in a hotel far away and take a shitty shuttle all the way.
Yep,
It's going to
so-
suck, which is a 24/7 con. You don't want to be doing
I think
that.
they just announced the dates.
Really? Just now?
Pat just pointed out that they just announced the dates.
Like just this second while we're recording the
I'm going to
podcast?
find out. I'm going to their Twitter. MAGFest.
What's the time on the tweet?
Let's see. 3 hours ago. MAGFest is January 3rd through 6th.
Oh,
Holy shit.
Looks like I bet wisely.
Yes, if you do not have a hotel for MAGFest, go get one right now.
Okay. If you're not watching the stream, which you shouldn't be.
Yeah, if you're watching the stream, go there right now.
Yeah,
I
don't
cannot
pay
stress.
attention to the rest of the stream.
In fact, I'm going to retweet this right now. Because they don't sell out as fast as PAX East, but they sell out.
All right.
All right. So, a long, long time ago, August 7th, 2007,
Okay.
we did a GeekNights episode
11 years ago.
on FPS keybindings. Oh my
Rim
God.
probably talked about how he uses some weird shit in the bottom right area because that's
So,
the way he played Doom or whatever.
in the news of that episode, we announced that, like, Valve was releasing 24 old games on Steam, and we were really excited about it. And Best Buy what did Best Buy do? Best Buy, that does not link to the article. So I don't know. Best Buy did something, and there's literally no way to know what it was.
All right, we can listen to the episode.
Yeah. And in January 21st, 2008, we did an episode on keyboards. But what we have never talked about are keyboard shortcuts. And we realized we actually have a lot to say about keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with keyboard shortcuts, right, is like there's sort of this thing that's like people who could use them to greatly improve their computing efficiency
Seem to refuse to.
don't or whatever. And then also, simultaneous to that, there's a lot of people, more and more, who can't, right? Young people don't even use a computer with a keyboard anymore. They
Yeah,
got
but-
a phone or a tablet or a gaming console or whatever.
Yeah, there aren't keyboard shortcuts on tablets.
Right.
There are gestures, but I find that most people don't use gestures either.
It's weird because, like, as a PC person, you think all these kids playing Fortnite. You imagine them sitting at their computers. Like, no, they're playing Fortnite on their phone or on their PS4 or who knows what, right?
I'm going to try it out. You know what I'm going to play it on? My Switch.
Yeah, I'm not playing it. But
it's
yeah,
probably more up your alley than
young
PUBG.
young people do not use keyboards at all, really. And even if they do, not a lot of them can type properly,
Yep.
right? There's only the ones who got into PC gaming somehow.
And at this
Usually
point,
the ones who don't live in
be
America would
honest,
be more likely to be
when
PC
we say
gaming.
properly, I don't even care if you type like the proper way. It's just, can you type fast?
Yep. Without looking.
Yep. And while these kids can
also-
type pretty fast on their phones, they cannot type as fast
Right.
as me on a keyboard.
Also, old people, right? Some of them can type, especially if they were typewriter people, right? But they don't use keyboard shortcuts. Like they're not, right? Only the ones who would be like Unix Santas. Those are the only kind of old people who'd use keyboard shortcuts.
There's another kind of old person who uses keyboard shortcuts.
Mm.
These are the people who are very good at the most basic nonsense on computers, and I say very good, making air quotes. The kind of person whose job is to mess with Excel spreadsheets and type documents in Word.
Even those people are very mousy. Right?
Those people are very mousy, but I've noticed that a lot of them tend to be told a set of keyboard shortcuts that they memorize. And if those keyboard shortcuts ever change or don't work, they are fucking paralyzed.
I think people know Control-C, Control-V. Right?
Yeah. But they'll learn like Control-I-R, or like they'll know a thing to like a task like inserting a row in a spreadsheet, like some bullshit like that.
Anyway.
And they won't know how to do the thing unless the exact menu that they were taught is still there, or the keyboard shortcut that someone told them still works.
So the people who use keyboard shortcuts a lot is this narrow group of people, actually. I mean, it's still a large group, but percentage-wise, it's a small group of people who, A, are in an age where they use computers with keyboards often, they can type properly or well enough, and also are computer savvy enough and interested in computing efficiency enough that they bother to learn and muscle memorize shortcuts so that they don't have to touch the mouse and they can do computing things faster.
Now, I think most of the people who do this are honestly professional, the kind of person who needs a PC to be a workstation. Like artists who are making art.
Yeah, Photoshop people, they know all these crazy shortcuts in Photoshop, right?
Audition.
Programmers, they know whatever their text editor is, they know mad shortcuts.
Yep. But what's interesting is that for a lot of those use cases, like especially like heavy video editing, a lot of times people have specialty input devices. Like I have my shuttle that I use when I edit video, but all that shuttle is doing, while it has like the shuttle and the like all the like fancy dial type things, the rest of it is just a bunch of keyboard buttons that I've bound to do keyboard shortcuts.
I mean, pretty much everything's just a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing with keyboard shortcuts, right, is that they increase, you don't even realize how much they increase your computing efficiency, right? If you want to have a race, right, and it's like, okay, pretty much pick any computing task, right? And it's someone who actually knows how to use keyboard shortcuts and someone who has to use the mouse all the time. The mouse person is going to lose pretty much everything all the time. Keyboards are just faster, just about everything.
So
right?
I guess the
I mean, even think of the keyboard shortcut I probably use the most is Control-L. Why? Because you're in a browser the most. So the keyboard shortcuts in the browser, there's three that I use more than anything. Control-L highlights all the text in the location bars. You press Control-L and start typing URL.
Yep.
You really think you're going to beat me by going up with the mouse to the location bar and like clicking on it? I've already typed the URL and press enter. All right, even if you can type as fast as me, if you don't press Control-L and you click there instead, you've already lost, right?
So the keyboard shortcuts I use more than anything are Control-Z,
undo,
and Control-Y. Though
redo.
Though actually in a lot of Adobe software, redo will only work once, or undo will only work once.
It depends.
And then you'll have like a separate like Control-Shift-Z to step backward.
Yep.
But again, already that's getting into professional, expert use cases and specialized software.
I'm talking about the browser, right? The thing that everyone's using on a computer, the browser. Control-T for a new tab. Control-W to close the current tab.
Control-Shift-T is fucking wizardry to a shocking number of
Control-Shift-T, open the last tab that got closed.
Yep.
Backspace.
You guys realize if you close a browser window and have another browser window open and in Control-Shift-T, it'll reopen that browser window. And you keep hitting Control-Shift-T, it keeps opening old tabs you had.
That you closed, in the order you closed them.
Yep.
You could do Control-N for a new window. You could do Alt-Right and Alt-Left will go forward and back, but Backspace is also back. Backspace is a really convenient back button.
the hill I will die on in UX. The backspace key should never have done anything in a web browser ever.
Well, it does.
Other than backspace a character. That was the most bullshit UX design decision anyone has ever made, other than making the stairs steeper on the 8th floor of my building.
Right, and the shortcuts between Chrome, Firefox, whatever, is all slightly different, but
yeah,
like Control L works in just about every browser.
Well, I guess there's 3 categories of keyboard shortcuts to like really put a fine point on this. There's the completely generic, effectively universal
Control
ones.
S saves on every piece of software ever.
Yep. There's the ones that are common to the applications that normal people use regularly, like web browsers. And then there's the specialized shortcuts for professional workflows, which is actually the most interesting use case that really only professionals do and like normal people seem to be incapable of. So like it's interesting watching people fumble through like Adobe software. Like when I first started learning how to edit video, I would do everything with the keyboard because I didn't really know the best way to approach my task. Like what kind of insert do I want to do? So the fact that there is a visual UI is very good for tasks that are new to you or tasks that are not commonly done by you.
Well,
like,
also, it's very convenient. You hover your mouse over an icon, and it shows you, oh, you know, you could press this key instead of pressing this button with the mouse.
Yep.
And it's like you go into a menu, like your file menu, and it just all the shortcuts are listed in the menu. So now you can learn. If you keep clicking on the same menu option, it's like, oh, there's a shortcut for this. I'm not going to go up here anymore. And there's always that one really disappointing menu option that has no text next to it.
Yep.
It's like, well, I guess I have to go to the menu for this.
But it's good because it allows discovery, like it allows the person to learn the interface. And frankly, while there are like Adobe Audition and Premiere are good examples, I could literally bind keys to do goddamn anything. I can bind macros, we'll talk about macros later, and like really complex stuff. But the reality is, most super complex workflows I don't do often, or maybe I'll do once in the course of a project. I don't need a dedicated button.
I think it's very rare that you need anything that's not the default, right?
Yep.
It's like unless you have a job where you've have some complicated thing, and even if you have a complicated thing, it's like you should probably just have a piece of software that does it, not need to program a macro.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like for example, I have this shuttle device that's basically just a keyboard with labels on it and some fancy controls, and the key bindings I have are the things I do all the time in every project. Things like insert video from the preview area into the sequence I'm working on, or like set an in point or set an out point or remove an in point or an out point. Like really basic stuff that otherwise I would be clicking constantly to do.
Or you could just use the keyboard. Like
nah.
me.
Well, because most of what I'm doing also is scrubbing and navigating back and forth through the timeline.
I can just scrub with the mouse wheel, but I still use the keyboard for all the other buttons.
Mouse wheel scrubbing isn't frame by frame if you want to do certain things.
My mouse wheel is very, very good.
It's not frame by frame.
My non-broken mouse.
Also,
you hold down some various buttons on the keyboard to adjust the speed of the scroll.
Or I just twist the shuttle, and the further I twist it, the faster I
don't need
to
have some weird device for no reason.
Yeah, because you basically don't do any complicated video editing. But the point is that
you just like to buy fancy shit.
I have
and
keyboard
then you
bindings.
break shit to buy new shit.
Fancy shit. This was like $40.
I'm just saying, you just like to buy nonsense stuff.
My keyboard costs way more than this thing.
Mine too.
But I also have keyboards. But basically, the things that I do semi-commonly, I do have keyboard bindings too. But these are all like professional use cases. And when I want to undo, I still just hit Control-Z.
Why wouldn't you?
On my tablet, I hit the top left button is undo, and the bottom left button is redo. Because I draw something and it's wrong, and I undo. Draw it again, wrong. Draw it again, wrong. Draw it again, now it's good.
Yeah. So one thing that I do, right, is most keyboard shortcuts, because you press keys in the keyboard, and unless you have a piece of software like Vim, I think Vim is the only one that's modal. Yeah. Right? Most of the buttons on the keyboard have a automatic function. Like you press L, it types the letter L. Yep. You always need to combine it with Alt or Control or Window key or something, to have a shortcut happen, right? And what really shocks me to this day is that they still make keyboards where the easiest button to hit that doesn't do anything is caps lock. Yeah. Right? I always change caps lock into Control.
Wait, just live with the defaults. Why are you changing from a default? as Scott spent like 20 minutes telling me you should never customize anything.
I don't, because what I do is I just buy a keyboard where the keyboard has a control there instead of a caps.
So rather than just making a simple software change to remap something,
it's actually not a simple software change. Fucking, if you in Windows, if you want to change caps lock into control, you need to edit the goddamn registry.
Mr. Fancy Pants needs his custom fucking keyboard to move.
How often do you use caps lock?
More often than you would think.
Why are you using caps lock? What's wrong with you?
For the dumbest possible reason.
Right.
The reason is
control is a button you're hitting all the goddamn time.
I work in finance and I am typing ticker names into case-sensitive systems sometimes.
Also, I'm way bad at typing. I never use right shift. I use left shift all the time.
I use both shifts equally.
I never use the right shift key.
I use right shift all the time.
I probably never pressed...
I use left shift way more often than right shift, but
I probably have never pressed the right shift key. I think it's a completely unused button on my keyboard. You might, like, if you look at the number of times it's been pressed, it might be 0.
I think I've hit pause fewer times than I've hit right shift.
Maybe I should, like, consciously try to start using the right shift key to capitalize letters on the left side of the keyboard like you're supposed to.
Yeah. Pause and scroll lock.
The point is, caps lock is useless. You should, if you're on a Mac, it's actually way easy to turn caps lock into control or command. And that brings me to something else, which is on Windows, you've got control and you got window key. But window key is used for like lock the computer with window L.
Yeah.
You don't really use it in a piece of software, right?
So you got control.
You use control for, and alt is to usually to go into the menu or to type funny characters in Unicode.
See, so what's fun is in all the professional software I have, you basically can make any combination of control, alt, shift, and
you have to. Alt is a lot of times used with control, but usually you're going to combine control and shift before you combine control and alt. Alt is like the last one. But on Mac, they give you command and option and alt are the same thing, basically, right? But they give you command in addition to control. And what really sucks on a Mac, even though you get used to it eventually, is that in Mac apps, like if you're in a browser, it's not control T, it's command T. It's not control W, it's command W. It's like, okay, I'll just replace control with command, right? But then you open up, say, a terminal on a Mac, and in Bash, right, you want to go to the end of the line with, control E. Well, guess what? It's not command E, it's control E.
That's why I don't use a Mac.
Yeah, well, it's one reason, right? But it's like, so when you're on a Mac, I sort of have it in muscle memory now, even though I rarely use a Mac.
Yeah.
That, in which apps are command and which apps are control. But it's like, well, what do you change caps lock into, command or control? Right? Because if it's like, well, I change it into command usually, but that means that anytime I open an app where I got to use control, I got to move my finger way further and find this other weird-ass button.
If you just use the defaults and just learn to live with them.
But that's what I'm saying, is that even if you didn't change caps lock into anything on a Mac, in a browser, you're going to be pressing command key.
Kind of amazing
and in a terminal, you're going to be pressing control.
It's both sad and amazing to me that Windows and Mac diverged on this sort of fundamental thing and stayed that way forever.
Right, and well, Mac had the Open Apple button, which they got rid of, and then Windows added the Windows key.
So I would argue that way more people used PCs and way more people were used to the Windowsy way of doing things. And meanwhile, Mac, early days, probably had a vested interest in keeping it weird, because once someone was used to a Mac, you didn't want it to be easy for them to go back to a PC. You want them to try to use a PC, get annoyed by it, and stay in Mac land forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. So few people use keyboard shortcuts that this is no longer a thing that people are annoyed by keeping them in one zone or the other.
Yeah. Now, one thing that's really sad that I see a lot among older people is that older people really seem to love macros.
I don't know about this.
I see the business analysts tend to do this all the time. They will literally forget. I'm not talking about Excel scripting.
That doesn't sound like a keyboard shortcut problem. That sounds just like a hammer. Have a hammer. Everything that looks like nails problem.
So people will make complex macros sometimes with custom software. Though luckily
that's just the only kind of programming they know how to do. What does that do with keyboard shortcuts?
This did seem to be a dying thing, but it seems like it's coming back. A lot of gamers will use software to bind macros to their mouse and keyboard buttons to do things in games when the game does not provide a single button that you could bind to do that thing. And gamers seem to be the only good use case for this, but usually people seem to only use macros when they have a repetitive task and they don't know how to script or automate it, so they script or automate hitting a keyboard shortcut a bunch of times in a row. Things like that. It's usually the wrong solution to a problem.
A lot of times in the office, you're going to hear someone typing like chicka.
Oh my God, that
like they might be doing. They might be pressing like something like down Control V, down Control V, down Control V, down Control V, or make like 10 lines of something.
Intern like typing detected.
Right, and it's like you can hear that and you can tell this person knows enough that they can do it. They've improved the efficiency a little bit, but they don't really know how they could do this with literally like pressing 2 keys.
It's like getting really good at chopping down a tree with an axe. You're still not going to be faster than a chainsaw.
Yeah, you don't know a chainsaw exists, so you master the axe.
Yep. Now again, like I have done that sometimes. Like if you just have like a thing and you want to really quick like, oh, I gotta like space this out.
Well, yeah, sometimes it's faster to just Control V 5 times, but sometimes it's not. There's a line.
Well, there's a line like you hear chichiga, 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 chichiga. If you hear one more after that, someone's going about something the wrong way.
Yeah.
But it's weird how I see a lot of people not knowing these shortcuts, but simultaneously, like especially browsers, especially Control-Shift-T.
If nothing else, you need to learn the basic keyboard shortcuts of the browser. You should be able to browse the web without ever touching the mouse, except maybe to click on a link, and even then, it's not necessary.
It's not necessary, but
there's some websites where you pretty much I only click. All I use the mouse for in a browser is clicking on links, nothing else. Anything else I do with the keyboard. And that means I can browse. That's how I can read so much internet so fast. That's a big part of it. Is I scroll with the keyboard, right? I search the page with the keyboard. I go to different pages with the keyboard.
Now, what I don't do is I never it's a complex software like Audition, all these Adobe things like Photoshop type stuff. I never change what the keyboard shortcuts are. I learn what the keyboard shortcuts are and just use them.
That's right.
And if I want a key to do something special, it's never because I want to change the key binding to like insert from A to Q. It's always I want to bind a key to something very complex, like basically one step short of a macro. Or you want to bind a key to something that does not have a default binding, because a lot of professional software will let you bind keys to things it does not have a default for, because by the time you even know that thing exists, you're already a very advanced user and you're doing something weird or something custom. There's a lot of things that don't have default bindings.
Usually, I feel like if you ever encounter a situation where like you have to customize something, that's probably a sign that like, hey, this is not the way that everyone does. This is, either A, the thing you're trying to do is not a thing people do. You shouldn't even be doing it. There's probably something else you can do to accomplish your goal. Or B, the way you are trying to accomplish your goal is actually some other way that's way better. You just don't know it. Right.
But like, here's an example. I could bind there's a billion bindings in Audition. Only some of them are defaults, and there's actually different sets of defaults. Like you can set it to act like other software. Yeah, which is a common thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we want to get people to use this software who are used to something else.
I want Excel to act like Quattro Pro, which just set my age.
It's like I got used to Quattro Express or whatever. It's like, well, I don't want to have to get used to Excel now. It's like, all right, well, the Excel people added a feature, so you can do that, but you shouldn't. You just get used to Excel instead.
I'm looking for an example. Like there is a keyboard shortcut, a default one for in Audition, decrease brush opacity.
Isn't that for Photoshop?
You realize you can draw on waveforms and on spectrals and do things with them in Audition, right?
Okay. What does opacity translate to? Like amplitude or what?
It depends on what you're doing. You can select with a degree of equivalent opacity areas of a spectral display and then apply transformations to just that area. But there is no default binding to razor all clips. But you could just decide to bind a key that doesn't have a default selection to that if that's a thing you do commonly. But normally that's a thing that someone who doesn't do that commonly would click on something in the UI to do.
The point is that the number of people who learn keyboard shortcuts, use them commonly and use them well is not enough. The advantage of if you get keyboard shortcuts for the applications you use the most into your muscle memory, your computing experience will be insanely improved. You don't even realize it's insane how much faster you will get shit done if you just learn the goddamn shortcuts and stop resisting.
So if you ever find yourself doing the same thing more than like 3 times in a row,
it's possible to do everything on a computer, no matter what, with keyboard only.
Except interact with a Flash website.
Maybe. I recommend, if you can, just unplug your mouse. Don't use any mice, and try to see if you can browse.
Ooh,
Just
that's a fun idea.
Just browse. Try to browse the web and do your daily browsing without the mouse at all. Just unplug it.
This gave me an idea for a game that we could make a game show out of and live stream.
But I can browse the web with
no,
mouse, though.
we would be the arbiters. We have other people do it. Mouseless horse. You know the game of horse in basketball? Where you make a shot, and then the other person has to make the exact same shot.
There's a game called Vim Horse. It's probably older than you.
Yeah. So I'm saying we could apply this to... For people who are not computer experts, because it's way more fun that way, you put them in front of a computer, no applications are open, and you give them increasingly complex tasks, and they have to do them without using a mouse. And you see who fails first.
Right, and obviously those people are going to take forever, but if you're good at it, it will take you could actually beat someone who's got a mouse easily.
Yep.
If you knew them, so learn them.
All right, I think it was a fine show. See you guys on the flip side. Flip side of this podcast.